Welcome everybody to the Captain Spot. I'm your host Justin Freeman, 6 foot 1 inches, 275 pounds of fantasy knowledge. And it's week 7, guys. Monday night edition of the Captain Spot here, as always, right here on Mayo Media Network. Be sure you click subscribe, like the video, and be sure to check out the Thursday and Sunday night shows over on the Captain Spot YouTube channel, youtube.com/the CPT Subscribe to both places. You'll get 3 shows a week right up in your feed. We've got an interesting game for you here tonight. It's Bears at Rams. Game's got a 44.5 point total. Rams favored at home by 6. So we've got a pretty good takeaway from Vegas as to how we anticipate this game to flow. You know, a 6-point spread that's just inside of a full touchdown, obviously. And so we're pretty much consistently going to be leaning towards game scripts that favor the running attack from the Rams side of the football, passing attack over on the Bears side. However, keep in mind, this is a showdown. Weird things happen. We won't always get that script. So I would encourage everybody, make a few lineups. Make a few lineups that can take advantage of every possible different game script. You won't be able to cover all your bases, but you may be able to dabble in each. It'll keep your night live for longer, that's for sure. But as we look at this Rams team, a team that's found a little bit more success running the football here lately behind a guy named Darrell Henderson. Henderson and Malcolm Brown been sort of splitting the time in that backfield, but the rushing work's really been going significantly to Henderson here over the last couple weeks. Cam Akers, a guy who Sean McVay continues to talk up. But what will happen? We haven't seen him utilized in this offense. 19% of the snaps 2 weeks ago. 2% last week after getting talked up by McVay during the week. It'll cost you $8,200 to get Darrell Henderson in your lineup. Only $3,400 for Malcolm Brown, $1,000 over there for Cam Akers. So which of those guys is going to make sense? That price point differential makes it really, really interesting. I think it's worth noticing the number of snaps that Malcolm Brown's playing. Even though he's not getting a lot of work carrying the football, he is involved in the passing game, and he is out there, which is a good predictor of opportunities. Opportunities, a good predictor of fantasy points. So make sure we're considering that. I think Malcolm Brown definitely still in consideration. And Cam Akers, absolutely a wild card. As we're projecting this backfield, just let's understand that it's completely possible that McVay just gets a wild hair and decides this is going to be Cam Akers' week. I don't think that's super likely. However, it's possible. And so if you have a handful of lineups with Akers in them, you could sneak up on the competition. As we look at the passing game for the Rams, it'll cost you $10,400 to throw Jared Goff in your lineups. That's a pretty high price. That makes him the highest priced player on the slate at $10,400 in the flex. You're just going to have to consider whether that makes him worthwhile or not, as much as the Rams would theoretically love to be running the football in this game. Fitting in his pass catchers becomes another chore, high-priced chore at that. $9,000 for Robert Woods, $9,200 for Cooper Kupp. These are a couple guys who are seeing very, very similar workloads in this offense, both out there for basically all the plays. They're running all the snaps, running all the routes in this offense. And the target share is just slightly favored Cooper Kupp, but just know that in the course of a single game, that could easily go to Woods. And you could argue they're really getting the same number of touches because Woods more involved in the rushing game. They try to draw up at least 1 or 2 plays per game for Robert Woods to get the ball out in space in the running game. So keep that in mind as another avenue towards big plays for Robert Woods. But the salary, especially when we're thinking we're probably going to have to pair those guys with a quarterback, makes it kind of interesting. Matter of fact, it kind of makes it where you could consider playing either of those guys without Goff if you wanted to. But this shouldn't be a game where we're overly constrained by salary. There's only so many great players for us to pay up for. We'll talk about the Chicago side here in a minute, but let's finish up here with LA, the home team that's favored by 6. Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett. Higbee will play. We usually talk about injuries. It looks like both teams will enter relatively healthy. There were some question marks earlier in the week surrounding Darrell Henderson's availability, Tyler Higbee's availability, even Robert Woods' availability. Everybody seems to be clear and ready to go, but make sure we're checking those inactives reports 90 minutes before game to make sure we have a complete understanding of who is actually going to dress. But we anticipate Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee to both play. $6,200 for Higbee. I'm just not super interested in the tight ends in this offense either way. Gerald Everett's been getting a little bit more run here lately. His snap share is increasing. His target share is definitely increasing. But outside of a 3-touchdown day from Tyler Higbee earlier this year, we haven't seen a ton from the big guy. So overall, I'm not super interested in Higbee as long as this team has a ground game to pound the ball into the end zone as they get into the red zone. That sort of eliminates, a way in which Higbee can win in this offense. Sort of looking bargain bin options. Josh Reynolds, a guy who's really been playing a lot more lately. He has just completely left Van Jefferson in his dust. Those two sort of battled it out for number 3 duties. And it's just clearly Josh Reynolds at this point. $2,800, a great price on him. Just super consistent volume over the last handful of weeks. 16, 13, 14, 14% target market share over the last 5 weeks. That's just really, really tight. And so you know exactly what you can bank on. The only question is, can he turn that into enough production on this slate? I think he can. I think that makes him a really, really viable play on this slate. Van Jefferson, we can't use him. Simba Webster, we can't use him. And that's pretty much all the guys who've even gotten a snap for the Rams side of the football. Super concentrated targets on that side. Looking at Chicago, Nick Foles, obviously at quarterback, will cost you $9,800. You're going to have a hard time wanting to play Nick Foles without also playing Allen Robinson, who's just been phenomenal. He'll cost you $10,000, and other than Jared Goff, that makes him the second most expensive player there on the slate. Robinson out there a ton, just remarkably high volume in the passing game. He's clearly the number 1 option by a mile. And so that gives him a level of stability and projectability that we don't often get for even number 1 receivers. Like, I can't tell you exactly what Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp's going to get on the other side, but I can tell you within a couple targets, more than likely, what Allen Robinson's going to get and feel pretty confident about it. Darnell Mooney is the number 2 receiver. He and Anthony Miller kind of going back and forth week to week as far as who's taking over that number 2 job, but it seems to just more consistently favor Mooney, who's averaging 60% of snaps on the year as compared to 53% for Anthony Miller. Pretty big drop-off after that. It goes down to Javon Wims and Cordarrell Patterson and then Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn looks like he will play, or at least he'll be available. The team hasn't kept him active every game this year. I think week 2 he was sitting out, but for the most part you can expect Ted Ginn to be active in this game. You just can't play him. You don't know what to expect there. He's not gotten more than 2 targets in a game this year, I believe. So Cordarrell Patterson is the interesting guy because at $1,400, he's the backup running back for Chicago. Now, he is David Montgomery's backup running back. And you look at Carolina, it's a similar situation. If you look at the Panthers' backfield, Mike Davis being the starting running back, and really the backup is Curtis Samuel. And a similar situation here where a wide receiver is the backup for Chicago. So at $1,400, you get a guy who gives you a little bit of rushing equity, but also is going to be out there a little bit running routes. Not running a ton of routes, about 18% of the team's routes on the year. So that may not be enough to get there, but at $1,400, just kind of a wild card type player to keep in your back pocket there with Cordarrell Patterson. Looking at the tight end position, Jimmy Graham, a guy who's been getting it done in the red zone and really beyond. He's certainly a number 2 option that Nick Foles is looking for in this offense. He's averaging 15% of the team's targets, but he's always getting them in really high equity portions of the field, meaning he's getting them in the red zone. He's getting them where they count, and he can turn them into major fantasy points in the blink of an eye. And he's still getting the job done pretty far downfield as well. So good on Jimmy Graham, sort of a late career resurgence so far this year. $7,200, it's a big price point for him, but obviously in the context of single game showdown, basically you're betting on touchdowns there, and he can get there with touchdowns and a little bit more. It's not like he just has that in his arsenal. At the running back position, it's David Montgomery, he's the clear-cut lead dog. He's the only guy who's going to get a carry in that offense. It's not going to Artavis Pierce. It's not going to Ryan Nall, anybody else who's out there possibly getting snapped. It's only going to Cordarrell Patterson and then David Montgomery in addition to the quarterback, of course. So, I think you can feel really, really solid about Montgomery's usage. The really encouraging thing is now that Tariq Cohen has been out for the season, he's getting a lot more usage in the pass game. So that raises his floor significantly. So as we're choosing, say, like if you had to make a choice between David Montgomery and Darrell Henderson on the other side, it becomes interesting because you get a lot more projectability. Like I know what I'm getting with David Montgomery. However, I'm getting a lot better chance at getting the right game script when it comes to Darrell Henderson. So we'll have some decisions to make on those two guys. So let's take a look at our captain assignments this week, and it's Allen Robinson who pops to the top of our allocation for the week. We run 10,000 simulations and optimize each and every one of them to understand who are our best captains. And it makes sense when you think about Allen Robinson. It's that projectable target floor and target ceiling that we get for Allen Robinson. Get, maybe 10 tries a game to turn them into big plays. And you give me 10 shots at making a big play. Some of them are going to get you to captain level status. He's got a good a path as anybody, probably a better chance than either of these running backs to getting a 100-yard bonus and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp comes in second, followed by David Montgomery, and then Jared Goff. And, as we look at Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, they're priced near the same. I was surprised to see Kupp grade out that much better, but, you can certainly consider either of those guys. And then the quarterback captains there, we don't typically like them, but just keep in mind they are useful on occasion. As we look at our flex appearances for the week, we've got Nick Foles, Jared Goff. No surprise, our two quarterbacks as the most favorite, is that a word? As our favorite options there in the flex. That's no surprise. David Montgomery, Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Darrell Henderson, and then we see Cordarrell Patterson. So, there comes a point in time where you're going to have to sacrifice and pick up one of these lower priced options. It's like Cordarrell Patterson, one of our favorite punt plays of the week. Darnell Mooney, obviously right there too. We talked about being sort of the number 2 receiver in that offense now and priced at $4,400. After Mooney is Malcolm Brown and then Anthony Miller. So, right there is kind of the core of the cheap guys. And you'll see Josh Reynolds right in that area too. We can sort of use those guys interchangeably. And of course, the most important things, guys, is to make sure that, is that your lineup is telling a story and is making something that makes sense over the course of game script. We don't have 3 pass catchers without a quarterback, or, we probably don't want 2 kickers in the same lineup, probably don't want 2 defenses in the same lineup. So overall, this is a slate where you can probably leave a little bit of money on the table. You won't get all the studs in there. However, keep in mind that, Darnell Mooney could be the guy this week, or, it could be that, on the other side, it could be that it's Cam Akers week. You never know. So give yourself an opportunity to get lucky, and that's the name of this game. So that's going to do it for this week. We'll see you again next week here on Monday on Mayo Media Network. You'll see the Thursday night show over on the Captain Spot YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe there, guys. We'll see you soon.